Welcome to the Immersed Teacher podcast. My name is Junius Wright, and in this podcast, I interview Nathan Durfee, a local Charleston artist, and ask him questions about his most recent work, In Search of Song. I caught up with Nathan at the 2009 Culture Clash, an event that brings together traditional and more cutting-edge art into a large 40,000 square foot warehouse located on the old naval base.
So what are we looking at? I mean, just describe what we see.
This is a giant who is escorting this little, I'm not quite sure what species it is, or if it's actual, this little intelligent mouse blob character out, and he's holding a treasure map. But the treasure map is to a new song.
And so the giant's got what appears to be a scarf around his neck, which is one that I've seen you wear before, and then and a striped shirt, almost like a Freddy Krueger shirt, and then he's holding on a leaf.
I was thinking more like fisherman shirt.
Yeah, I shouldn't prejudice that way. Yeah, sorry. And then the fish, which
good under it.
yeah, that's right.
It's like the early years.
That's right. Before it all went wrong. And then the fish holding the map, I guess the fish has glasses on. And I tell you what stands out to me, the first thing, are the waves.
Yes.
I mean, that's the first thing that popped up when I looked at this, which I'm surprised. I guess it's the first thing that I really found interesting.
What stands out is it's different for me, and I've only done it one or two times before.
Okay.
And I'm looking to find new textures and new systems of creating environments.
Okay.
I've been so fascinated with the pixelation and the patchwork theme that I love it. I want to use it all the time, but I found out if I render everything in patchwork, it all becomes a washout. And
so now you have his face pixelated, his hands pixelated, but then you have this water and these big loops.
Yes.
They look like almost a bunch of record discs that have been sort of stacked together, and blue record discs that are there. And it gives it a very 3D feel to it, too.
My inspiration for it is in theaters where they have sets that are, they're wood cutouts.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
They stack them and they stagger them. And so, and people can walk along the planes in between the waters to show depth. And it's that tricking you into three-dimensional using two-dimensional objects. But now that I'm painting on a two-dimensional surface, it gives me a lot more freedom to explore how it works. And
well, it also has a bit of a surreal look to it as well. Yeah. So it brings that into it. I think like more traditional.
Willy Wonka.
Yes, Willy Wonka. There you go. Very good. Yeah.
So I've dumbed down the squares and the clouds and tried to render them a bit more realistically. The grass, actually, it's bladed instead of patchworked.
So it's a departure from that pixelation, very much so.
Yeah, but at the same time, the flesh tones are still pixelated.
Now, a couple other things there. He looks like a fisherman. He's pointing, and behind him there's a windmill, yes. And then an old Victrola record player with a bunch of sheets of paper that have been spread out.
They're trying to find a song.
They're trying to find a song.
Yeah, and the little fish, I don't know if he's a fish. He's something. We're just gonna. It's holding a map, and the map is to the right theme song. And they've been writing all these different ideas, and they're all just scrapped, and they've been trying to find a perfect song, and so they finally set sail into new territories to find it.
What's interesting, I just found in a thrift store a bunch of the old records that they play on that.
Yeah.
And they're not worth. I got one because I thought it was going to be worth a lot. It's worth maybe $12 or something like that. But what was interesting is how thick they are. They're really, really thick.
It's dented steel.
It's really wild. And you could get some of the earlier ones. I mean, the later ones that still played on there that are, I don't know what they're made out of, but they're maybe the early pressings of classic or whatever. They're very, very thick. So they're the next generation past the discs or whatever. But I guess my question was why
record players.
Right. Why use that Victrola? Why is that there? But I mean, instead of a more modern type of piece of music.
I tend to keep technology in the vintage era.
Okay.
Because if I flirt too close to the present, it becomes time sensitive. You know, if I have GoPro's on, if I had an iPod there, or even a boombox, it harkens to a certain era.
Right.
And I think
this harkens to a certain era as well.
But for me, it's far enough back that it becomes more generalized.
Well, I mean, it goes along with the water. That's roughly the same time period. I mean, those are the two things the closest, and you have the windmill in the background as well. So, I mean,
I didn't think of that, but it fits because I guess that's an era that we wear with rose-tinted glasses. And we always, even though there was so much horror going on back then and so many atrocities, we think of the Great Gatsby days and just fun parties and everyone's wearing seersucker and drinking lemonade because we forgot about all the bad stuff. And although I know that it's not true, I like to look back there with a fondness of ignorance.
Well, you're not too far off. I mean, one thing that comes to mind, I heard this interview with a guy that talked about he could time travel. And of course, they go through his apartment, and his trick was that he surrounded himself with everything old. Everything. And to the point, his point was that time is all about perspective.
Yeah.
And so he really had transported himself back to that time. His perspective, everything. I mean, there's nothing uncovered that, was modern. He really had. I mean, and his way of being, his way of talking, he said was really starting to shift back to that as if he was going back in time. But it makes sense, though, when you have a painting that has all these things in it.
And lastly, I'd like to think that things were built to last back then.
Yeah.
Where before mass manufacturing, furniture was handed down. A gun. You got your dad's gun. You got your grandfather's gun. Things are handed down. And this table, your great-great-great-grandfather built. And I'm drawn to that solidity of it. Buildings. Once they hit the historical society, they're there. They're there to stay. Stone buildings, brick buildings, and I think that even 30 years from now, we're still going to look and say, "Oh, that's a Victrola," but people don't know what an 8-track is. And even though an 8-track's more recent, it's been forgotten.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So my last question is, so maybe that's the reason why you don't have the icon in this one. You didn't feel a need to put a little arrow or a question mark.
I think you're giving me too much credit.
So no, that's a great answer. That gives insight into why you place those things there. I think that's interesting. I mean, that makes sense.
This one specifically, why I felt it didn't need a graphic element is that there was so much texture and decorative patterns in there. I thought that I already wasn't taking myself seriously with the waves and the scarf so I felt it would just be superfluous to throw something like